So let's talk about why the United States is one of the only countries in the entire world that doesn't use the metric system. It's a question a lot of people have, and trust me, the answer, it's so much stranger than you could possibly imagine.
I mean, have you ever been in the middle of a recipe just completely stumped by like fractions of an ounce? Or you have to stop what you're doing to Google how many feet are in a mile? It just feels so random, right? Well, that's because this whole system of inches and pounds and gallons, it's kind of a mess, and most of the planet left it behind a long, long time ago.
So, what gives? Why is America still stuck with it? Well, the answer isn't just about being stubborn or holding on to tradition. Nope, it's actually this wild story from the 18th century. It's got everything: a dangerous sea voyage, a brilliant scientist, and yeah, a gang of pirates.
All right, so to really get why this one trip was so important, we've got to go back, way back, to 1793. The United States is brand new, and honestly, it's kind of having a bit of an identity crisis. Back then, the US was a total disaster when it came to measurements. Seriously, just imagine the chaos. A pound of flour in Pennsylvania could be totally different from a pound in Virginia. A foot of lumber, it might change depending on which merchant you bought it from. You can see how, for a new country trying to build a real economy, this was an absolute logistical nightmare.
And the guy who had to clean up this mess? None other than the Secretary of State, a man who was all about science and logic. Thomas Jefferson.
So Jefferson, he looks over at what's happening in France, and he sees they're cooking up something revolutionary. Instead of this random jumble of units we had, their new metric system was just beautiful. It was simple, it was logical, everything. And I mean everything was based on the number 10. You know, a meter is 100 centimeters, a kilogram is 1,000 grams. You just slide a decimal point around. It was a system built on pure, clean logic, which made it super easy to learn and use.
And for a guy like Jefferson, a man of the Enlightenment who loved science and reason, oh, this was music to his ears. It was the kind of logical perfection that just made sense. He saw it as the key to modernizing America, to really putting the U.S. on the scientific map. He was totally sold. He had to have it for his new country. So, Jefferson reaches out to his friends in France, and the French government, they're happy to help out their fellow revolutionaries. They agree to send over the one thing America needed to get started.
And they weren't just mailing over a set of instructions. No, they were sending the physical embodiment of the entire system. We're talking about this one specific object, a carefully crafted copper cylinder. This thing was the official honest-to-goodness standard for the kilogram. It was meant to be the source of truth, the master copy that all other weights in America would be based on.
The plan seemed pretty straightforward. A respected French scientist, a guy named Joseph Dombey, would carry this incredibly important cargo across the ocean. The destination, Philadelphia, where he would personally hand it over to Thomas Jefferson. And just like that, America's journey into a more logical, metric future was supposed to begin. But while this simple, hopeful mission was about to run head first into the brutal reality of traveling by sea in the 18th century, and things went wrong. Like, dramatically wrong.
So Dombey sets sail in 1793. Almost right away, disaster strikes. A massive storm hits his ship and blows it hundreds of miles off course, way down south into the Caribbean. Now back then, if you were sailing in the Caribbean on anything but a British ship, you were basically a floating target. And sure enough, a group of British pirates spotted them. These guys didn't care about science or a new system of measurement. They saw a ship and they saw loot. They captured Dombey, threw him in prison, and held him for ransom. And tragically, he died there, in captivity.
And just like that, the mission was over. It failed. That copper kilogram, the one physical object that was supposed to unlock America's metric future, was gone. It probably just got tossed into a pile of pirate loot, or maybe even thrown overboard. Its captors had no idea what they had, no clue about its world-changing importance. That key never made it to Thomas Jefferson, and when it disappeared, so did the dream of a logical, metric America.
It's incredible to think about, but the failure of that one single trip has had consequences that have lasted for more than 200 years. It's the reason for the measurement mess that Americans are still dealing with right now. You see, without that physical standard, that copper cylinder to show to Congress, the political will for this big change just evaporated. The momentum was lost. And by the time anyone could have even thought about trying again, the whole political landscape had shifted. The U.S. had bigger fish to fry, and France was in the middle of its own revolutionary chaos with Napoleon on the rise. So what happened?
America just fell back on what it already knew, the old, clunky, confusing English imperial system. Now, to be fair, this wasn't the absolute last chance, of course not. There were other big pushes to go metric. There was one in the 19th century and another really big effort back in the 1970s. But every single time, as you can see here, the effort failed. It was always defeated by the same things, the huge cost of changing everything over, and maybe a little bit of national pride in, doing things our own way, even if it is the more complicated way.
So really, the next time you're standing in your kitchen trying to remember how many ounces are in a quart, just know it's not your fault. It's a direct result of a storm back in 1793 and a bunch of pirates who, with one single raid, accidentally locked a whole country into a measurement system it probably should have ditched centuries ago. It really just goes to show you how random history can be, right? One unlucky event, a storm, a pirate raid, and it ends up defining a basic part of American life for hundreds of years. So that brings up a good question. What do you think? Is America's unique measurement system this frustrating historical curse that we should finally get around to fixing? Or has it just become a quirky part of the national identity? Maybe even a blessing in disguise? Definitely something to think about.